Welcome back to days where the drama in Salem has reached a fever pitch. In a stunning twist, Kristen has stepped forward, ready to take the blame for the shooting in a desperate bid to shield her daughter, Rachel, from a life-altering scandal. But Belle, the relentless prosecutor, refuses to accept Kristen's false confession, insisting that Rachel herself must face the consequences. This decision ignites a firestorm of outrage from Brady, EJ, Kristen, and the rest of Rachel's loved ones, turning an already tragic case into an explosive family battle that will test loyalty, morality, and the very limits of parental sacrifice. The hypnosis breakthrough that changes everything. The August 12th episode delivered a pivotal moment that has been months in the making. EJ found himself once again under Marlena Evans' expert psychological care, submitting to another intensive hypnosis session that would finally crack open the vault of his suppressed memories. The seasoned psychiatrist guided EJ through the labyrinthine corridors of his traumatized mind, carefully navigating around the psychological barriers his subconscious had erected to protect him from an unbearable truth. During this deeply penetrating session, a fragment of memory emerged like a shard of glass cutting through fog. EJ's voice, trembling with the weight of recovered recollection, spoke words that would send chills through anyone listening. He remembered desperately attempting to wrestle a deadly weapon away from feminine hands. The image was tantalizingly incomplete, showing him the silhouette of a woman but frustratingly obscuring her face, as if his mind was still fighting to protect him from the complete revelation. The narrowing circle of suspects. EJ's partially recovered memory has dramatically focused the investigation, eliminating numerous possibilities and concentrating attention on the women who were present at the mansion during that fateful evening. The list of potential shooters has been methodically reduced to 4 individuals. Kristen, whose volatile relationship with EJ has been marked by years of conflict; Gabby Hernandez, whose fierce loyalty to her family sometimes leads to desperate actions; Chanel Dupree, whose recent integration into the family dynamics has been complicated; and Ava Vitali, whose criminal past makes her a perpetual suspect in violent incidents. However, seasoned soap opera observers understand that the most obvious suspects are rarely the true culprits. The investigation's current trajectory suggests something far more complex and emotionally devastating than a straightforward case of adult revenge or business rivalry. The psychological profile of EJ's memory suppression indicates that his subconscious is working overtime to protect someone he cares about deeply, someone whose guilt would shatter his emotional foundation entirely. The unthinkable truth about Rachel Black. All investigative roads are beginning to converge on a shocking possibility that no one in Salem wants to confront. Rachel Black, the innocent-appearing daughter of Brady and Kristen, may be the one who pulled the trigger. This devastating theory gains credibility when examined through the lens of childhood psychology and trauma response. Rachel has been exhibiting classic signs of suppressed traumatic memory, including persistent nightmares, heightened startle responses, and behavioral changes that have worried her parents. The young girl's presence at the mansion on the night of the shooting was well documented, but her potential role as the perpetrator seemed impossible to consider. However, recent evidence suggests that Rachel may have witnessed the confrontation between Johnny and EJ, and in a moment of childish impulsiveness or fear, grabbed the weapon that Johnny had abandoned. The shooting could have been entirely accidental, the result of a child's inability to properly handle a firearm, making the situation even more tragic and complex. Rachel's recent testimony revealed that she observed Johnny threatening EJ with a gun, but conveniently, her memory appears to stop at that crucial moment. This selective amnesia is characteristic of childhood trauma responses, where the mind protects itself by blocking out the most disturbing elements of an experience. The psychological defense mechanism would explain why both Rachel and EJ have been unable to recall the complete sequence of events. Marlena's emerging theory and professional dilemma. Dr. Marlena Evans, with her decades of psychiatric expertise, is beginning to piece together the disturbing puzzle. Her professional training allows her to recognize the signs of suppressed memory in both EJ and Rachel, and she's developing a theory that could explain the mysterious gaps in both their recollections. The upcoming episodes will reveal Marlena sharing her suspicions with Belle Black, her daughter, creating a complex ethical situation for the respected psychiatrist. Marlena's position becomes particularly precarious because she must balance her professional obligations with her personal relationships and moral compass. If her theory proves correct, she'll face the impossible choice between revealing the truth about a child's involvement in a serious crime or protecting Rachel's psychological well-being and future. The situation is further complicated by her professional relationship with EJ and her family connections to the case. Kristen's ultimate maternal sacrifice as the investigation circles closer to Rachel. Kristen DiMera is preparing to make the most selfless decision of her often selfish life. The woman who has spent years scheming and manipulating to get what she wants is now ready to sacrifice her freedom to protect her daughter from the devastating consequences of a childhood mistake. Kristen's transformation from self-serving villain to protective mother represents one of the most compelling character arcs in recent soap opera history. The false confession that Kristen is contemplating represents more than just legal misdirection. It's a complete redemption of her character through maternal love. She understands that Rachel's young life would be irreparably damaged by involvement in the criminal justice system, even if the shooting was accidental. Juvenile detention, psychological evaluation, and the stigma of being labeled a shooter would follow Rachel for the rest of her life, destroying her chances for a normal childhood and healthy development. Kristen's recent conversation with Rachel at the pub, where she swore she wasn't the shooter, takes on new meaning in this context. Rather than simply reassuring her daughter, Kristen was actually laying the groundwork for her eventual false confession. By initially denying involvement, she creates a narrative that will make her later admission seem like a delayed revelation rather than an obvious lie designed to protect Rachel. The complex web of family loyalty, the DiMera family dynamics add layers of complexity to this already intricate situation. EJ's position as both victim and potential protector of his young niece creates an almost impossible emotional conflict. His subconscious suppression of Rachel's identity as the shooter demonstrates the depth of his familial bonds, even when those bonds put him in personal danger. The fact that he cannot consciously remember Rachel as the perpetrator suggests that his love for his family runs deeper than his desire for justice or revenge. This situation also tests the limits of Brady Black's paternal instincts and his complicated relationship with Kristen. While Brady has always been committed to protecting Rachel, he may find himself torn between supporting Kristen's sacrifice and insisting on the truth. His moral compass typically guides him toward honesty and justice, but the prospect of his young daughter facing criminal charges could override those principles. The psychological aftermath and recovery, the resolution of this crisis, will require careful psychological intervention for all parties involved. Rachel will need extensive therapy to process both her involvement in the shooting and her mother's subsequent sacrifice. The guilt of knowing that Kristen is serving time for her actions could be as psychologically damaging as facing the consequences directly. Professional counseling will be essential to help Rachel understand that childhood mistakes, even serious ones, don't define her entire future. EJ's recovery process will be equally complex, as he must integrate the knowledge of Rachel's involvement with his existing emotional bonds to the family. His decision about whether to support Kristen's false confession or reveal the truth will define his character moving forward and determine his relationship with the DiMera family for years to come. The legal and ethical implications. The false confession scenario raises significant legal and ethical questions that will reverberate throughout Salem's legal community. Belle Black, as a prosecutor, will face the challenge of handling a case where she suspects the defendant is lying to protect someone else. Her professional obligation to seek truth and justice conflicts with her personal understanding of Kristen's motivations and the complexity of the family situation. The case also highlights the inadequacies of the legal system when dealing with juvenile crimes, particularly those committed by very young children. Rachel's age makes traditional criminal prosecution inappropriate, but the serious nature of the crime demands some form of intervention and accountability. The resolution will likely require creative legal solutions that prioritize rehabilitation and family preservation over punishment. As these dramatic events continue to unfold, Viewers can expect emotional revelations, difficult moral choices, and the kind of complex family dynamics that make Days of Our Lives appointment television. The intersection of crime, family loyalty, and psychological trauma creates a storyline that resonates far beyond the boundaries of daytime drama, exploring themes that reflect real-world challenges facing families in crisis.